It's May 6th. And this is the CPC Community Preservation Committee meeting for Thursday, May 6th. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 orders, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Community Preservation Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information on the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's of Southborough's website at https://www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so by the following manner: by finding the meeting at https://www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of the members of the public. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite our best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcription, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. With that said, I call the meeting to order. It's now 7:04 because it takes me a long time to read. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Excellent. Let's see. As Freddie mentioned before, Betsy isn't feeling well. She is, Freddie, she is still going to take the notes, right? She's going to watch the recording and take the notes. The meeting minutes notes?
Yeah, she will. She just, yeah. So she had some surgery recently, so she's resting right now, but she will be on it tomorrow.
Excellent. We wish her the best and hope she feels better and gets a speedy recovery. One other thing I forgot to mention at our last meeting was that I don't know how many people knew Linda Hubley, but Linda had helped us long ago set up the website and get the CPC started. And she passed away after a battle with cancer. So I just wanted to recognize her from her contributions to the CPC in the past, and she'd be greatly missed. She's a big advocate in the town. So just want to mention that. On to the first order of business, approve the minutes from the last meeting. Everyone get them? I think they were out yesterday.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I will move to approve the minutes as prepared by Betsy.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Comments? All those in favor, and I'll go around the horn the way I see people on my screen. Jennifer?
Yep.
Mark?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Dorianne?
Yes.
And Ann?
Yes.
And Andrew Mills is a yes. Great. So we got that done. So next thing. So let's updates for annual town meeting warrant article. So St. Mark's Bell Tower. I'll just start off. We did do the walkthrough on Tuesday with the moderator for a town meeting. Our articles are in the early 20s, so kind of which is unusual, kind of early in the whole town meeting, which is could be good, could be bad. Good, we could get out early. Bad, it means my history with town meeting is the earlier articles get more debate. So so we went through that. I think what happened, and Ben, I don't know if this got discussed later, because Ben got on the call too to talk about the St. Mark's it's not the belt, the clock tower. I think they didn't have enough seats in the virtual room, because I kept calling in and getting kicked out. And I think I was getting kicked out every time someone else, I noticed on some of the Zoom calls, there's a limit of 100 people. I don't know what it was set at, but I was getting bounced out left and right. I think Aldo was having the same problem. And I was on my phone. But from what I did hear, the only pieces I had to follow up on were to find out who might need time to speak and do a presentation or talk at the mic to advocate for a project. We knew that the clock tower was going to be one. That was a given. I said I would follow up with all the other project applicants. So they all wanted to, the only thing, and I haven't talked to Michael. Do you know if for the school, the flag school, does someone want to talk a little bit, or Michael? I mean, I can call him tomorrow, but
I haven't heard anything from him about that recently, so I can follow up, or you can, whatever works.
I'll reach out to him after this meeting.
Okay.
So
Knowing Michael, I would assume he probably would want to say something, but good to check, I think.
okay. So that's where that stood. And then other items from the bell tower. I don't know, Ben, if the applicants have been communicating anything new to you or not.
No, so yeah, towards the end of the meeting, I started having the same issues that Aldo was having, where my microphone and speakers would just cut out, so I couldn't hear what was going on and no one could hear me. But before that happened, we just it was recommended by Paul Semino that people doing the presentation actually be Southborough registered voters, rather than Mr. Weiler, who I think I see in the waiting room, and Brad Blanchette. I had originally assumed they would be doing the presentation because they've been sort of driving this, but Paul Semino recommended that one or more registered voters who are members of the parish do the presentation. Other than that, nothing, no surprises. Of course, I'll be moving the warrant article.
Great. Thank
And just to confirm, there are no visual presentations. It's all verbal, right?
Yeah, if
Okay.
there's something that you wanted like printed or something, you can work through the town clerk, but yes, there's no audio visual
Gotcha.
like display to do a PowerPoint, is my understanding. So
Can I ask a question here, Andrew?
yeah.
Through the chair. In the past, especially when we were at the end of the town meeting, so maybe it's a little different. If you read the warrant article and then selectmen support and advisory supports and everyone wants to vote, you start giving a presentation, people get mad. We almost had people vote against a presentation because of that. So if you're doing, in the past, we used to tell people, don't do a presentation unless, and I don't know how you can do that if people start lining up, if you see people lining up at the, you know which ones are going to need to be discussed. And if no one's lined up at the microphone, why, or make it really short, because that was our recommendation in the past, if you can understand why. Because it used to go, support, everyone raised their hand, next article.
Yeah, and what I had when I talked to Tim about the recreation one for the field. I said, you know, from his, he asked what it should expect. And Jennifer, what I told him was like, well, you know, this has been a long, and he hasn't been through the whole process. So I don't know if you would help him and maybe say, give an overview for the hall or the outside hall to say, hey, you know, as a reminder, this isn't out of the blue. We've been working on this, you know, just like 2 minutes to say this has been a long process and getting to this point to say that, yes, the field will be usable and be able to be maintained and won't wash away in a year, or, you know, something like that, you know.
Yep.
And then if there's, you know, Tim said he'd be ready too, but if someone can kind of do that to just set the stage so that it's not coming out of the blue, I think that would be helpful. And Freddie, I do agree with you that if, you know, at the most part, people say, look, I think John Parent, I think he's going to say a couple things about the townhouse. That probably definitely needs it. And Catherine wanted to be on deck for the trails because there was a lot of discussion, I think, on the side with the advisory about what are they going to, you know, what's the town getting out of this? For her, I suggested the same thing that we've already, you know, discussed with her. It's like, say that it's connecting the boroughs loop, and you know, if we had to build it from scratch, it would cost $250,000. Luckily, you know, a lot of it's already built there, but to have access, we have to, you know, put some fencing in to protect the people using it, and signage, and that then opens up the possibility for grant money once they have the funds to then even enhance the project further, but at a minimum, it's to be able to access the land, put in the fencing, and do the signage. So
Could I say another suggestions, just if anyone's got a project or they know someone, doing your legwork up front, you know, having a handout or doing a Zoom meeting. I believe Trails is doing one tonight. I've seen people have full support and then someone starts talking and they raise an issue nobody had thought of. And the next thing you know, off to the races we go. So, and you know, so
yeah.
it's always a danger.
So, so that's where those stand. Any questions, comments? I'll even open up to the public if anyone wants to mention anything.
Is St. Mark's here?
I do see, yeah, I see Mark's raising his hand.
So Benjamin, you know the issue here, right?
Yeah, so there was a typo in the warrant article summary. The warrant article itself is fine, but there was a typo in the summary that we'll have to correct on the floor of town meeting. So Freddie has been in contact with, I believe, both Mr. Weiler and Mr. Blanchett to ask if they could give a little bit of discussion about the project budget, which is what the typo was. It was in reference to the overall budget, and you know, and fill in the details, you know, where the additional funding is coming from outside of CPA funds and so forth. So she has a pretty thorough email, and I think they may have had some time to digest that, and I suspect they're ready to discuss that this evening.
And
They're both in the audience, and Mark has his hand up. Do we want to bring him over?
Yeah, that'd be great. Please.
Can I make a process comment that the total cost, so everyone knows what happened. Mark Purple said that somebody at one of the selectmen's meetings had raised the issue that the total cost in the summary was wrong and that it's much more. So during the first review of this, the total cost changed. It doesn't change how much we're paying. What we want to make sure we know is that, you know, that they can, if asked, that there's a plan for the rest of the money. But I would suggest, like everything else, that on town meeting floor, you just say the process, you know, the project, without going into it in depth, unless there's a lot of questions. We just want to correct the summary dollar amount is 750 instead of 565 or whatever it was, and have them on board to answer questions, but not ready to start with it because you can open up that can of worms. Just make it a simple statement after you read the warrant article. Oh, by the way, this number is different than what's printed in the summary, and we're aware of that, and they have the funds if they present that to you tonight.
Andrew, we're having a lengthy discussion about a warrant article that I do not have in front of me. I have no idea what this conversation is referencing. Do we have that?
So you guys have all been sent the warrant articles and you voted on them. I did send a copy of all of them, right, in case someone had that question, but those warrant articles are the ones we went over.
I do not have a copy of the warrant article and the question that we're discussing right now at length. I do not have that information. So my question is, can somebody send that to me so I can take a look at it?
I've already sent it.
Okay.
But you
Again,
should have-
Freddie, I don't have it. So could you please resend it so that I could see what you're referencing? Because I'm sorry, I don't have it. I don't have that information. So I just want to see it because I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, I'm just going to ask, so did anyone get any of the warrant articles that we've been in the past that we've gone over?
Yeah,
Oh, I have in the past.
Dorian, I just forwarded it to you, Dorian.
Okay, thanks, Ben, because I just don't have it. I'm sorry, but
Got it.
Is it the email from 6:34 this evening?
Yep, that was just because I thought people may not have it readily available, but it's the type of document that,
All right. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
get one at 6:34 either.
These are the same ones that we
Okay.
have received previously and voted on.
Okay.
Yes.
okay, I'm printing it now. Thank you. Thanks for sending that. I'm sorry I didn't have it. And so I have no idea what we're discussing right now. So hang on. It's printing. I've got it on my computer, so I'm good.
Everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so here it is. And Ben, I'm gonna step away. You want to be the chair while we discuss this? That'd be great.
Certainly. So again, the typo, we can see at the very bottom of our screens that the last sentence, this $300,000 request is for partial funding of total project cost of $565,000 with the remainder raised by St. Mark's. $565,000 should be $750,000, I believe. And that is a correction that I will make after moving the article and immediately prior to turning things over to whichever representatives from St. Mark's are going to be doing their presentation. And I think we have promoted Mr. Weiler up, I believe.
Yep, he should be good.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us.
I'd just like to mention you've done an incredible job with public outreach between the town Facebook, My Southborough, and then the mailing that we received a couple of days ago. It's a very impressive effort, and this is the kind of effort that's needed to get something like this done. You've done a great job with it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there's been a lot of work that went into all that.
I'm sure. So we asked you to come in tonight just for one final run through and just to talk about the typo that we had in the summary, so that you are, I'll make the correction without going into any detail on it. I think the question that would be raised is that could be raised is, with this change, does St. Mark's in fact have enough additional funding to carry the project off as is? So you'll be ready to address that, I'm sure.
Right. If you want me to devote a minute to that right now. I do have the numbers in front of us.
That would be great.
Yes, I can share that. If you can give me capability to share my screen, then I can bring that up. It's just one.
Yep, you should be able to
One,
put the screen on top of his. Yep.
Okay. And here we go. All right, so everyone should see the Excel spreadsheet that says Article 19 Community Preservation Committee. Just want to confirm everyone can see that so far.
Nope.
I'm not,
No.
not seeing-
No.
Can't see it.
Oh, hang on.
There we go.
All right, there's a couple buttons that need to be pressed apparently. All right. Okay, great. So everyone sees this, correct?
I do.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
All right. All right. Yeah, so this is a summary, and thank you for making the effort to update the total project cost to be the $750,000 figure. It reached to that number because after the phase one work was being done, the Spencer Sullivan and Vogt team had done an assessment and saw the amount of additional restoration work that was needed. So that number, whatever, I don't know if that was originally 565 or a different number, but what matters the most right now is that they have advised us that the total construction cost is $750,000. So what I've done is I just broke out the funding sources underneath it, those rows here. And what you can see is, assuming that Article 19 passes by town meeting members, that contribution of $300,000 represents 40% of the project cost. We did already receive a $50,000 emergency grant from the Massachusetts Historic Commission, which was applied to phase one of the work, which was matched with parishioner funds. And we have a pending grant application in place that was submitted in March of this year with Massachusetts Historic Commission for an additional $50,000. So that against a commitment that we have on record from our parishioner base of $350,000 gets us to that goal to meet the $750,000 requirement of funding. Now, since the Tower Capital the 2021 grant that has been applied for with Massachusetts Historic Commission is pending, we don't know the results of that until June. In the event that we do not receive the grant, then we are instead responsible for not 350, but the parish is responsible for 400,000, and that represents a 53% contribution towards the project. And I have spoken with our treasurer, and I am informed that we will definitely commit to reaching that necessary amount of funding in order to true up and cover the cost of the $750,000 project. So that's all I had to present. And if there are questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Thank you. First, does anyone have questions on the budget, the revised total, and how it all fits together? Okay. Has St. Mark's been in contact with the moderator regarding any details of the presentation, in particular length?
So there was participation from Matt Spencer and Michelle Hart, who are Southborough residents and members of St. Mark's who are intending to present. I don't think there's any expectation to devote more than 2-3 minutes at most. We don't want to take up a lot of people's time.
Okay, That's, I was going to recommend no more than 5 minutes in the presentation. I know you've shown us an incredible amount of detail, and I know there's a temptation to share, all the work that's been done on it. But as Freddie said, sometimes that can be counterproductive. And I guess I would make the recommendation. I don't know if my sound cut out before I was able to voice this. The question, I think we can expect. The question will come up about the correspondence we've gotten from the Freedom from Religion Foundation and their threats and so forth. My recommendation would be, and I tried to give Aldo a heads up, that because he issued a legal opinion on that, it's part of the record of our hearings on this, I would ask him to discuss his opinion, and he'll know all of the issues and can address them succinctly. That would be my one recommendation for that.
Can I ask a question here?
Of course.
Benjamin, is that for St. Mark's or is that for the CPC who had that opinion before we voted on it? They didn't get the opinion. It's the opinion for the CPC. So if that question comes up, is that for the CPC to answer? And not answer, yeah. Say we asked and turn it over to town council. I think it's appropriate either way. Once I've moved the article and mentioned the change in the summary, things will be turned over to St. Mark's, and because the legal opinion was issued to, this is in anticipation of a question that I expect will be answered, will be asked, and I think an appropriate response to that question, the question will be asked of St. Mark's. I think it'd be appropriate for them to say that this issue was reviewed by Southborough's town council, and we respectfully ask that he give a summary of his findings on the issue.
Typically, the moderator will intercept. Typically, the moderator does a really good job intercepting those and just sending them right to Aldo. So
yeah.
Do we give Aldo a heads up?
I think I did. Mark, you were at the Zoom meeting last night. Did my audio cut out before I gave Aldo the heads up? I don't know. My audio kept going in and out, the microphone turning on and off and so forth.
Could you send an email to Mark Purple and CC Aldo and just let him know this if it comes up? That's what.
Certainly. And
then, yeah, I just want to be clear that it wasn't St. Mark's asking our town council for an opinion. That was the point. I think people can get the wrong opinion easily at town meeting if they don't understand everything. So
I think I had asked for the legal opinion, Freddie.
Yeah, the CPC, through the CPC.
Yeah.
I think the other part of it, and I don't know if that's for St. Mark's or for town council, I don't know if that came in, but we were advised that that organization doesn't have the authority to sue the town.
Yep.
Their letter acts like they do, but they don't.
The opinion covered that, and a prior opinion back a little over a year ago discussed the two-prong or three-prong test to determine if a project is fundable with respect to the Acton decision. And Aldo went through in that opinion how he believes that the St. Mark's project satisfies each of these requirements. And again, rather than a layperson trying to capture his legal opinion, I think if we direct it his direction, I think he can take care of it best. Which, as Jen has said, that it's something that he typically does, a couple of times during a typical town meeting. Okay. Anything from the CPC? Any further questions, comments, or concerns for St. Mark's?
Nope.
Okay, Mr. Weiler, any questions from St. Mark's that we can address for you this evening?
Maybe just a matter of protocol. So since there's no actual presentation, PowerPoint, it's all outdoors. We do have a single page handout with information on both sides that we were hoping to share. And my understanding, if I could just confirm with you, is that we get that document into the hands of the town clerk.
That is correct. That's correct. And earlier is better. It sounds like that may already be prepared. I would coordinate with him. I believe you're going to have to, he'll let you know how many copies you need to prepare. And then he will ensure that they make it out to the table that will be set up with this, with all the various informational things for people.
Great. Okay, we will certainly do that. It is prepared. Would you like me also to, as a courtesy, share that document with you by sending it to Andrew Mills as CPC chair?
That would be great.
Okay.
Would appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll definitely do that. So yeah, then just to confirm, we Matt Spencer and Michelle Hart, respecting the needs of the town to have residents present. Both Matt and Michelle are well acquainted with the project and will more than adequately serve to be able to present. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And just to make sure, do we have any questions from anyone in the public? If so, please use the raise hand function. We'll promote you up. And it does not look like we do.
Nope.
Okay. Mark, thank you very much for coming in this evening and going over these final details. I think you're in pretty good shape.
Glad to do so. Thank you, all of you, for all the hard work that you go through to put all of these warrant articles together. I'm gaining a huge appreciation for all the effort that is required.
Well, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, and I will turn things back over to Andrew.
All right. I'm back. What a peaceful transition of power. So let's see. So I think delayed laugh. That's good. I got to laugh. So let's see. I think we're good on the top on the updates for town meeting articles. So the next one is application notification and MOUs. So Freddie sent out the MOU. Hold on, where'd it go? Oh, here.
Great job, Freddie, by the way.
Here, I'm gonna share it.
It's high praise. Thank you, Mark. And I tell you, I'm trying to be better getting these out earlier, but this one, I started doing the individual ones and it just seemed like having the regular template would be better because then you can adjust them as they go. And so I highlighted in yellow whatever is new. So this was based on a MOU we had in play going back, I don't know when we first had it, but in 2019. I took that MOU that was in existence and then I updated a few things.
Right. So just to recap for anyone who's new in the audience or for those who don't recall, this is to be a summary and a memorandum of understanding between us and the applicant of what's actually going to get done in timeframes and things that we can't really fit into the warrant article, but we could pull out in our back pocket when talking about hey, what's supposed to happen, say 3 years from now when a project might be done, or however for a project that we have the key points outlined before we have to go into the specifics of the actual application. So here, I mean, I don't know how you guys want to go through this. The the part at the beginning is just explaining the memorandum of understanding, the project name, the proponent. We put the budget description, total funding and everything. And then the yellow part, Freddie, is the only pieces you added. Is that correct?
Right,
Well-
based on areas that we've been weak on follow-up before. So like we have all these projects that the application says it. We used to have a letter of acceptance that we would send out, that we would just send out, and we require a plaque. I hate to say how many there are that projects that actually have the plaque. So I thought maybe do something that sorry, gives an incentive to actually put the plaque up. Sometimes you go to a town and they have everywhere you go, there's paid for by, funded by the citizens with CPA money. And it sounds so wonderful. And we have those projects here in town, but people don't know it. So,
Along those lines, is it worth or necessary to point out that the plaque has to be displayed to the public? Or, not that someone's going to throw it in the closet, but
well, sometimes it's inside a book. So
really,
well, if
okay,
you have a book, where are you going to put it?
that's true.
Remember in the town clerk's project, all of the books had a seal. So if you open the book up, it tells you.
Good point. Okay.
So that's why it says you will receive guidelines at initial projects. I don't know how you might want to call that different. What do you call that?
I like it the way it is then. Nicely done.
Initial project start meeting. Because I have another thing about that. So then this next one makes everyone aware that if you have a permit that's required, that you should have it before you start the project. Right? That eases conflict. And then this one, you can't see my cursor, the first yellow on the second page, that's the project start meeting. I didn't call it that there, but tell everything we should go over. And one thing in here that you see is you go over the review the required plaque, the project schedule, right? Like when's it starting? When do you anticipate it ending? So we don't get a bill saying, oh, the project's done before we knew it had started. In the past, for the newer members, we had a liaison who worked with all the project applicants to make sure the project was moving along in the, if they had questions, just created a better relationship, and you may wish to do that again. But invoice submittal schedule is important because typically CPA projects originally had been, you do a project and you submit the invoice when it's done. And then we say, yeah, it's done correctly and we'll pay it. And sometimes because of like the townhouse or the things that go out to bid, there's monthly and they have to be paid. We need to know that ahead of time. So you're not, and also talking about what types of things. We had one project where I was chair at the time, getting submittals for like a box of nails for $2.99 that needed to be paid right away. I mean, so we want to sort of make sure those sorts of misunderstandings don't happen. And then what's the next one? This has been the one that's not in yellow, and we haven't really followed through on it. And it's something, you may wish to look on, knowing that where the project stands throughout the time and getting updates. So all of these that was a standard one we've had for a long time, but all of these are suggestions. Then the additional project specific obligations. I have an example of that for the townhouse. And then getting the MOU signed before the project starts is a kind of a good idea. And then when the project starts and if there's an anticipated completion date.
So, first of all, thank you, Freddie, for putting this together. I know we've talked about it over many meetings. Glad that we have something much more complete or holistic than we had before for this year. From my standpoint, I think it meets all the needs. I like that we do it like, after town meeting, I think, and because if anything gets added in at town meeting, if someone says, well, a dollar amount figures change, but a different requirement that we can throw it in and add it to the MOU. So I appreciate this. Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Well, I think some of it, I'm stuttering here. I know it was last minute, but for an example, it's a warrant article you're familiar with. I emailed out a draft townhouse one.
Yep.
The one for St. Mark's, ignore that because I started working on it and then I was like, came up with these ideas and I said, it'd be better just to have a template because how are you going to go through each one and see how they are? So this will show you a little bit what my thought is. So
You see it?
the question is, who does the townhouse? Is that the Southborough Board of Selectmen and the Facilities Department? I mean, we can decide that. Knowing the warrant article will fill in the blank, right? Then you have the project name, then you have and in this part up top, it specifically says you can't use the contingency unless you come in and talk to us, right? Back in the day, people used to get the whole, like, they'd see the whole dollar amount and just thought that was what they had to spend. And that wasn't the point of the contingency. So then I put summary, see where it says budget and brief description. The brief description is just the summary, right? I think it's not the whole warrant article, but like, what's the point of the project? And then if you go down a little bit more, Andrew. So the yellow is all, what I had in yellow before. Go down to the blue or aqua. So here's for the townhouse, additional project specific obligations. And some of those are directly from the warrant article. So and this, we didn't talk about this as much, but it's a requirement that it's per the historic district review requirements, right? And that's how they're building it. But what if they switched, I'm not saying the town would, but pretend a project switched the architect working on it and then they didn't uphold that. You want to be able to say, no, you have to do this. This also helps us because it's in one place and we don't have to go searching through the warrant articles, and it also will tell us where the warrant article is if we do have to. And then the other thing I put in,
I don't understand why something's added if we didn't discuss it. I mean, I'm not on this project.
I didn't say we didn't discuss it. I said it might not have. I said most of these things are, I'm sorry, let me step back. I don't recall exactly what I said. What my intention to say is only things in here are things that we've discussed. Some of them, most of them will be in the warrant article. Right? So the number 4, that's not in the warrant article, but we asked them in number 3 that this just made sense to me, and this is just a suggestion from me. In number 3, we said that the preservation restriction starts no later than 180 days after the commencement of construction. I think it makes sense to ask them to notify us when that happens. Now, if that doesn't fit with you, take it out. That's why I put it, in blue, because it's a little bit different.
Okay. I don't mean to be difficult here, but did we get this information emailed to us as well? Do we
Yep.
have this?
Yep.
Okay, again, I don't have this either. And I don't know why, because I don't have a problem with my town email. Can someone just send it to me quickly, please, so I can print it out? So I can look at it. It's easier for me to look at it in front of me versus the screen.
Yeah, and Dorianne, I'm going to apologize because my goal is not to send this out to you right before it happened, but
No, Freddie, that's totally fine. I'm not worried about that.
I don't know.
It's
I don't
just
know why
easier
the,
for me if
Yeah.
it's here in front of me like this versus on the screen. On the screen, it bothers my eyes. I can see better and do better when it's in front of me. So I don't have it in email form, so I could have printed it out. So if someone
Yeah,
can
I
just
get
send it to me now, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm really sorry if it's coming across the way. That's not my purpose. I just need to see it in front of me, and this is not helping. This is giving me a headache looking on the
Okay.
screen.
so
I just sent it to you, Dorian.
Thank you,
Thank-
Jen. I'm so sorry, guys, but I get a headache looking at my screen this much.
So Freddie, I think the only thing is, maybe we just swap 3 and 4. Because I think it flows better. You know, I appreciate what you did in terms of putting that in, that, yeah, yes, we get notified and we know when the clock starts counting.
Yeah.
and But I mean, I know it's mine, but just.
yeah, no, I thought of that after I put 3 in. It was like, geez, how do we know when that happens? Like, so from my past history on the committee, you don't really want to be like, oh, we didn't know. And
Right.
it's, does this mean that everything will flow wonderfully? And, like if they don't tell us, there's no punishment there. But if they get it, maybe somebody will read it and think, oh, I should let them know. Or it will remind us, hey, have we asked? So we should have a file each year. But what are, maybe go through it once in a while. And so have you gotten there yet, Dorianne?
Yeah, I'm good. I've got it, Freddie. Thank you. Thanks for sending it, Jen.
So everything here was just right. And sometimes there will be these odd things that we talked about. Now, we didn't talk about that one, and now you're talking about it. And if you think it makes sense, I can't imagine someone would say there's a requirement there to do something once something happens, and they would be upset about, you need to let us know when that starts. So that kind of makes sense to me. And then the other one here at the bottom is one in yellow. It's not, that's a standard part of the new template, but we have MOUs that were never signed, and that's not on the applicant only. This is something the CPC can work at, being a little more organized. Yeah, because we were doing the best we can, and now you have a little extra help with me. Hopefully it's some help. And then
Well,
so
Can I just add one thing? I think there ought to be a signature from at least the chair of CPC, if not, a signature block for members of CPC. Does that make sense? A memorandum of understanding between the two parties.
yeah,
Again, like you say, it's not something that's enforceable that we're going to go to court or arbitration over, but just to give it some additional legitimacy.
make it feel legal.
yeah. All right, so we'll add, and the question is on some of these, like for the townhouse, who is signing? Is it the chairman of the board of selectmen? Was this a facilities or cap? Like the selectmen never came to us, so who's in charge here?
I mean,
And I think
You could put in the facilities director or otherwise designated representative of the town.
for this one, I thought you might want 2, because you might want the selectmen, because they're the ones that have to do the PR, aren't they? Preservation restriction. It's not the facilities director doing that. They're the only ones who can do anything with real interest in property.
Yeah, but John Parent said he's gonna drive that and get it done.
Correct, but you want to show that the selectmen knew this was a requirement of the funding, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, I hear you. It's puts anyone who signs it is on notice. In this particular project, the selectmen would be on notice by virtue of being at the town meeting, but.
All right, that's why I just wanted to ask. So for here,
Somebody should definitely sign it, though.
Going to the selectmen though, like, then they're gonna send it to Aldo, right? And that would, like.
yeah, I'm fine. I've left that that boat behind or whatever it sailed. But if you go up to the top, Andrew, I wanted to point out something for the newer members. Where a lot, why this is, you know, you're not going to, you're not going to go to court or anything, but what authority does this document really have? And it comes to, in our warrant articles, and those who've been here a long time recall this was a really big deal. We got the language, which is on every warrant article. Where is it that it's under the, does it say it up top? That it's under the funding is under the direction of the CPC? Does this not say it in there? Maybe we should add it in.
That's in the warrant article, right, Freddie?
It is.
Yeah, that language is in the warrant article. I remember the wrestling we went through to get that in and acceptable to everybody.
Yeah, well, actually it was, now it says the CPC and town treasurer. It's not in the document. If it's not in the top part, maybe that's where it should go.
You lost me there. Tell me what you think we should add in at that top.
You know, the standard language that every warrant article has, that the, are you going there, Andrew? Thank you.
Andrew, John Parent's in the audience. He's got his hand raised. I'm not sure he has a question about this.
Okay, go to the warrant article first and then finish that and then call him if that's okay. So every warrant article will say,
Right here.
said funds to be expended under the direction of the Community Preservation Committee. What that means is even though this is voted, we're the ones who say whether the funds go. I mean, I'm sure, you know, if you have to fund a project that's voted at town meeting, but it gives you a little bit more, like if you didn't do, if it's not that project, we don't have to fund it, or if they didn't live up to the MOU. So if you want that in the MOU as well. Or is that just redundant? I don't.
I think it's.
I think there's value. It doesn't make, it's already says it and that's the vote, but here it is in the MOU if somebody forgets down the road, like, oh, I don't have to do that. You know, you can't make me. Not that anyone said that yet, really. Kind of, maybe.
Well, if the town voted to expend, to spend the money and to expend that, I mean, why is that not being done? I mean, why are we having another step added to here that we have to, what? We decide whether we're going to send the money after it's been voted on by town meeting?
No, I think it's like if some of the requirements aren't met for within the article, that's the hook to say, look, not only, yes, the town votes to expend this money, but, you know, in some cases it's, you know, granted that if, you know, some other step has to happen and it's in the warrant article too.
Okay.
Our recourse is at the direction of the CPC.
Okay, I got it. Okay, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
And also additionally, it gives us the authority to say, you know, check the warrant article and make sure the project is in line with it. That we,
Okay,
you know, so
makes sense.
who signs off on that? You know, this project gets paid for. You know, it should be the CPC, and that's how it was recommended to us from when we first passed it. And then they did want to add the town treasurer in, and we agreed to that collaboratively with town council and, you know, the selectmen at the time.
Okay.
After much
Yeah,
debate.
I mean, most of the time we'll be performing kind of a ministerial function, but I agree with you. If it comes to our attention that funds are being expended, beyond what's contemplated or inappropriately, it's certainly within our mandate to say, no, we're not paying for that. And I guess it's a long way of saying I agree with you, Freddie. I wasn't sure, but after you discussed it, I do agree with you.
So you want that to, you want me to add that into the MOU?
Well,
You
it's
are-
already in the warrant article, right, Freddie? So it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a little redundant, but it doesn't hurt anything.
You tell me.
Yeah, I think put it in.
I think so
It's a
too.
good reminder, and I mean, the summary's in the warrant article too, but we're putting that in.
So here's what happens with the MOUs. After they get signed, or even if they don't get signed, we have them on file. And we can pull them up easily and say, this is what we agreed to. And you can easily email it to someone. And you don't have to say, oh, what year was that? Where's the warrant article? Was it special town meeting? You know, all things we had done in the past. And then you can just say, look, this is what we agreed to. And oh, you agreed to it too. So we're all very happy. And, you know, we don't have to have back and forth over something, which, and I want to say, it's not like this happens a lot, but once in a while, some of these things have come up. So let's just make
That's
it
a good
easier.
point. It's a good point, Freddie.
So if you liking this, did I just say that? If you like this,
We like it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
the
good.
only thing you'll want to agree on is anything for any of the warrant articles under that other section. That is, I will just bring out what's the, any conditions in the warrant. So most of them won't have anything there. If you go down, Andrew, can you go down on that? Yeah, most of them won't have anything like additional project specific obligations, right? But sometimes there might be something like this one. This, I didn't have, you know, until you approved it, it didn't make sense to put them all into this format, but I thought I'd take the one with the most potential obligations that aren't, you know, because without writing the whole warrant article out again, it's making it really clear. This is what we agreed to.
If we're gonna vote on this particular MOU, can I nitpick a little bit?
I wish you would.
Can you
About-
bring, John Parent, I don't know if he has questions or not. You may want to have him bring his
Yeah,
questions
okay,
in,
that's
Mark,
fine.
before we do any
Bring
other
them over?
changes in this.
Right.
Yeah, by all means.
I have no idea what he wants to ask, but he's got his hand raised and he's that
Okay.
facility director we've got in red there.
All right, let's hear from John.
Hey,
Hi,
John,
everyone. How are you?
good you?
Good, good. Just a couple quick things. First, I'm seeing this as of tonight. Any chance, Freddie, could you shoot this over in an email to me so I can print her up and read her? And someone had mentioned on the signatory line, I would think we would have to have the Board of Selectmen on that for the simple fact, as Freddie pointed out, where the preservation restrictions there, I cannot sign for the Board of Selectmen. So I
Okay,
think they're gonna have to be involved in that, signing somewhere on the document.
sounds good. And then, John, this is, again, just a draft. We've been trying to work on these overall for a while. So since we've been finally got to a point where we can focus now on this, so we got all the warrant articles in and everything. We're starting to pound these
Would it
out.
be possible to add some wording too? I mean, I have no problem if you guys want to pay the invoices. That's pretty straightforward. We just forward them on to you, but could we put wording in where they have to be paid within so many days? There's nothing worse than if we have a vendor that sends in an invoice and they have to wait on it. It's one thing I've always prided the department on. We pay quickly when work is completed.
Do you see where it says the start meeting?
Which one are you on?
The applicant shall meet with a CPC prior to the project commencement to review required plaque, project scheduled, anticipated timeline, and invoice submittal schedule.
Right, but I'm not talking just from the submittal. Once it's submitted, actual payment processing.
You need to talk to us about that at that point because each project's different. So what happened is originally we paid when the project was done. We are not an employer payment, but what happens with these big projects, then you get the application coming in. So you can, that's something you can talk about there. There's no reason we should be paying them late.
Yeah, because this is definitely something where you couldn't wait till a project and you'd be asking people to go without payment for over a year.
So that's not the
That
point, but
wouldn't work.
if you talk with, what was his name? It is his name, sorry.
Jason?
Jason, he and I, because I was the chair at the time, worked very well. He got these invoices and they had to be paid right away. So he needed to let me know when they were coming in ahead of time, so we'd be prepared, because, you know, for example, it's not like we're working full time here, or the chair who gets to review it. So knowing it ahead of time, and I don't think, my understanding and recollection is we had a wonderful relationship and that went very well. Not that there might not have been some hiccups, who knows, there's always something, but that was my understanding. And we had a very cooperative, professional relationship, and there's no reason that wouldn't happen.
And I haven't heard any complaints from the library either. I don't know if you're hearing differently, John, but like.
No, that seems to be going fine. In the beginning, there was some question, from what I understand, of how quickly they would be paid. And that always that becomes turmoil when dealing with vendors. And
it also could be problematic when I would get an invoice months later and then say, why didn't you?
Well, yeah, that's definitely a problem. Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't me not paying it. That's why we saved the emails, you know, so, but I think we have a good track record, and I think you set it out at this, because every project's going to be different, and we're not going to know until you go out to bid what your requirements are. Is that correct?
What do you mean by requirements in that fashion?
I think the point is, John, that once if it passes town meeting, it goes out to bid, you figure out who you're going to be dealing with, and whatever their like timeline is to when they're going to submit, you know, you work it out with them how often they're going to submit an invoice, and the expectation is it's paid in 30 days. That meeting is to really make sure we're all on the same page as to, okay, how's this going to work? You know, do we have to talk to Carla so that it can, you know, go straight through, so we're all on the same page? That, I mean,
perfect, Andrew.
But you know what? I'll change my tune here. I'll go alto instead of soprano. This is an MOU, right? Memorandum of Understanding. So I think we could put in that the CPC agrees to pay the invoices, properly submitted invoices, in a timely manner. And I don't know if that covers it, but is that what you're looking for, John?
Yeah, we're just, because normally when an invoice gets submitted, people expect payment within 30 days. And I know that adds a little bit of a hiccup with this, because invoice would be submitted to me most likely, then we'd have to send it over to you. It's gonna have to be processed. And then it still has to go through the invoicing system up in accounting, which can take a week or two in itself to get on a warrant. So again, there's a little expeditious, you know, behavior that needs to happen to do this when we're going through multiple steps. But again, I fully understand why you want to be able to sign off on the invoices. I have no problem with that. That is what it is. As long as we just keep moving and working as a team, I don't see there being any problems. I don't foresee that.
Great. Okay.
So do you guys want me to put something in that we promise we will, or is that necessary?
I'm comfortable with keeping it like we figure it out at that meeting.
Okay.
I agree.
I have no problem trusting your word, so I'll take your word.
So, okay. Any other questions on this, John?
Not right now.
Okay. All right. So, let's see. So I know, Freddie, I think this is a great start. I think so the anticipation would be that we take whatever comes out of town meeting, if anything got added or whatnot, we'd include it in the MOU and then have them signed right afterwards. So we're going to keep these in draft until after town meeting. Does that sound right?
That's up to you. That wasn't really the intention, but I think that is okay. because it says your project doesn't start until you sign it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't think it makes a difference whether it's done before or after town meeting. I would point out that because there's not a lot of changes made on town meeting floor because you can't. Only we can amend our articles for language, and I don't think, I'm not sure if we even have the ability. I think the only thing, or maybe we do, but I think the only thing that happens on town meeting floor is besides not approving it, you can lower the dollar amount. But yeah, I think that's fine if something changes. This also gives you more time to review them before approving it, because nobody was expecting you to say, this is good, and check
Right.
out the language here. And
Right.
so,
Okay. So is everyone comfortable with the direction we're going with the template and then adding the specifics for each one?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I think the goal would be at our next meeting or after the first meeting after town meeting, that we go through and finalize and approve the MOUs and then get them out and say, congratulations, your project was approved. And by the way, sign this because we're not going to pay anything until you sign this. Right?
Yeah.
Like it.
yeah, and I will say that the warrant article also says you're required to have an MOU. That's standard language we put in.
Right.
So it's not like they can say, no, I didn't agree to that.
Right.
Right. So,
Can I just give some feedback on this?
Yep.
So,
well, sorry.
sorry, it's okay. Just on, so with my rec hat on and the other side of this, going through some of this with Tim for the first time, I think I would love for like our top section to almost read like a timeline of events of like what is expected of me now that I've been given this CPC funding. So something like your first step is to have a meeting with CPC to discuss the following things. Then before like groundbreaking, we'd like a heads up or like a little bit more detail, just because I know that even with the rec ones, like we stumbled a little bit, not completely understanding what we're supposed to do or what we're supposed to tell you, or the fact that like they should be talking to CPC before they start the project, not just when they need the money. So, and I know, like, I feel like a lot of the content is here, but to my brain, it jumps around a little bit. So I was just thinking like, if we could just organize this a little bit as like, these are the steps so they can almost like check the boxes. I know it would make it clearer for me, and just thinking that that might be an easy way for us to also keep track that they've gone through these steps.
In more of a checklist almost. Not that we'll put little boxes, but somebody can
Right,
say,
or even just like in order, because I
Right.
know like the very last thing we say like you have to sign this before we disperse funds, but I think the first line should be like this MOU must be signed before July 1st, 2021.
you know what would be helpful?
Something like that.
It would be helpful to me
Mhm.
if you or any other member of the CPC could sort of next to item say 1, 2, 3. You know, which order you want, because
Okay, or
I can
even
take
like,
this.
do you want me to take a stab at kind of reorganizing it how I would like what I'm thinking?
That would, if the committee agrees, that would make wonderful sense.
I think Jen has a great idea, so.
Yes,
that makes good
that
sense.
makes sense.
Okay.
And why I think it's better for Jen to do it than for me to do it, because I've been so immersed in this. I know what, it's like you have the eyes of I'm new, how you would like to see it. And this has been so, this process has evolved over since 2003.
Okay.
So I don't see it the same way you are. And I think you're right. We have somewhat of an expectation that people know what we're doing. And I think that would also,
Excuse me.
I think that would also benefit having something like that for when you submit an application, what you expect, because I know Catherine from Trails, she goes, well, this is my first time. And I'm like, yeah, it's often everyone's first time who have a project, right? So having that sort of a guideline would be something we could work on for next year, that, you come before, I mean, it's there in the and that was another thing, is to redo the application and but making it clearer, the step by step, I think that would be helpful to the applicants. And that's, certainly what we want to do. So,
Great. Thank you, Jen, for
Yep.
for offering to help with that.
Yep.
So the goal to have filled out ones ready to vote on for the first meeting after town meeting. Work for everyone?
Sounds good.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm gonna move on to, what's the next agenda item? Where's my stuff? Get out of my way. So next was outstanding 2019 historical flag MOU. So this, timely that this comes up. The MOU for the flag is still not signed. I
are
don't
you
know.
muted, Andrew?
Can't hear me?
I
Hear
can
you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Ready? Can you hear me?
Is it me?
You.
Everybody point to Freddie. It's Freddie's.
I thought it was Andrew, but it was me. I couldn't hear.
That's why I was pointing, Freddie. It was you.
And I'm going, Andrew, can you hear? We can't hear you.
So the historical flag, we still need the MOU for that. Freddie, I don't know. I don't think I have that email anymore. I can send it to Michael. I have to talk to him again tonight. Anyhow.
Michael did sign it. Sorry to interrupt. Michael did sign it, and I sent the signed document back to you and Freddie earlier this week.
Oh, okay.
So he did sign the MOU, but had some feedback on the outstanding affidavit with the selectmen, which I understand is separate from the MOU. But we do have the MOU signed for our record keeping.
Okay.
Can
So
I?
the affidavit, though, that was something that was the selectmen requested. So that wasn't a requirement on our side. That was a selectmen's request.
Okay.
So that, and I believe that was in the town meeting warrant article when it got voted on. So I'm surprised that there's miscommunication, I guess, on that, because it was in the article that got voted on that was going to happen. And again, the intent is that the flag itself was that I understand the flag originally was given to the town. The town kept it in a paper bag and then said, "Oh, here you go, Michael. It goes to the historical society." And it was just, we had lots of discussion around if the society, one, that the flag can't be sold. It has to stay with the society. And then the second question was, well, if the society ever gets dissolved, what happens to it?
Mhm.
And it was agreed that, everyone said that it should go back to the town. So.
And I think they're agreeing to that. If you don't mind, I can just read what what Michael had sent me, in response to that, just to give a little more context here. So Michael said, what we indicated was that should the society be dissolved, the flag would be offered to the town, provided that they could provide a climate UV controlled, suitably lighted space to house it. If not, it would then be offered to the Massachusetts Historical Society, and barring that, sold. So it was kind of like putting a contingency on, turning it over to the town, that they can put, that they have a space with the conditions needed to preserve it even further.
Can I jump in? Because I was chair at the time and I worked with Rebecca long and hard to make this warrant pass.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you're saying is what I remember Michael saying. And then that's not what was voted on and not what got put in the warrant. So he can remember what he wanted.
Oh, that makes sense.
But it's not what happened.
Right.
What happened is what's in the warrant article. And that happened because it was, if you wanted to get the article passed, that was what was That was the warrant articles. So we could go back if he wanted and do a search of minutes, but it doesn't even matter because that's what was in the warrant. That's what got voted. You don't change it for what you wished it had said.
Right, okay. I didn't have that background, so that's really helpful.
And I'm not pro or con, I'm just telling you that's what happened.
And
and-
that's also what's in the MOU that he signed. So just, that makes sense if your recollection is correct.
And I had a question on the MOU that he signed.
Mhm.
I looked at the one I sent and it said something like anticipated completion date 18 months or something.
Mhm.
And he changed that.
So because it's completed, so by the time
So
the date of the signature, it's.
So read the article. The article wasn't just the flag. So are you saying that the Historical Society says the project's completed and they want to give the $30,000 left in the account to do the other work back?
I'm
not saying you, but is that what Michael's intention is?
I don't know.
So if the project's completed, then all the money left in the account goes back to where it came from. And it wasn't just the flag. It was a joint flag and document.
Yeah, there were other documents they wanted to still restore and preserve. And we suggested that you bundle the flag with the other piece. It would be more palatable instead of, chopping them up into separate projects. So if Freddie's saying if he's signing off saying everything's complete, he's saying that those other documents have been preserved and everything, and then we should take the funds back, which I don't know if that's true or not. If it is, great. If it isn't,
Yeah, I'm not.
You have the MOU in front of you, Annie?
I do. I have the one, the signed one that I forwarded back to you guys.
Okay, I don't have it in front of me. Does it have two components to the project in the MOU?
This looks to be just the flag. I mean, I don't have the article in front of me. I just have the MOU.
Maybe that's my mistake. I thought that it was.
Restoration and preservation of the Civil War era flag. Oh, wait, purchase of additional archivist supplies for refined storage and long-term preservation of documents for a total cost of $20.55.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, is he walking away from that $20.55 because there's still money in the account?
Yeah, I don't know. So what do you want me to do? Do you want me to have him re-sign it with?
Well, I gotta call him anyhow, so I can ask him if it is truly complete. I was planning on calling him right after this, about whether or not he wants to present at town meeting. So I can ask him on that aspect.
So the goal of bringing this up is so that he doesn't get blindsided by not having funds there that he may think he has. If he says the project's done, it's done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because he signed that. We didn't do that. Looking out for you guys. Not you, because you're not Historical Society, but looking out for the project.
So that's, I think we covered that one. Any other questions on that one? All right, Fire and Police Memorial. There's a request from Spazey. What's his first name? Is it Alan?
Neil
Spazey, for monies to fix the damage and the move of the police and fire memorial from the old location to the new location. There are funds available left in the account from when that was created. So I am comfortable, but I'm one member. If we pay to have it fixed for when it got damaged, wanted to put it out there and make sure everyone else was comfortable before I responded back that that would be okay. So,
What are we talking about? The police memorial that's not it's not on the agenda, and where's the money coming from? And what's it for? Like,
It's on the agenda. It's right here in the third to last bullet. Police and Fire Memorial request for monies to fix damage and move. I'm looking right at the agenda as I go through this.
oh, I have an old agenda. That's why it's not making sense to me. Okay. I don't know how that, I have an old agenda up here that doesn't make sense. Did we have an earlier project with it?
Yep,
money left?
on the flagpole, they created a bench and there's a couple of stones, like a etched out granite piece for as a fire and police memorial.
Okay,
And when they built it, it was requested that it would be able to be moved if something happened, like they got a new site, and that's what happened.
okay.
They could move it and it got damaged.
I believe there's also a portion of the World Trade Center there. Wasn't that part of it too?
I think so. I can't remember. That was a while ago.
Yeah. So, and if I may, this is an example of a project that has some contingency funding or some money left. And certainly when they first proposed it, they didn't know that it was, we suspected it might get moved. They did plan the best they could, but they certainly didn't expect for it to get somewhat upended. I'm not.
Is
it's
this a
not clear how
project
it
that was
happened.
like done and closed out? So in theory, the funds would have been released, or did we hold it anticipating this?
I think we didn't.
It was done and closed out.
No, it wasn't closed because
Well,
the
I
money's
mean,
still there.
It was done.
It was
And we
done.
hadn't taken the funds back yet.
Okay.
So otherwise, what probably would happen, he'd come and say, hey, can I use some money from the, what is it? Not the-
Edmund.
yeah,
Admin.
the admin.
I don't think it's an admin project, but he could have done that and you could have said yes, but
So,
Would this, not to confuse things, would this comport with the warrant article that originally authorized these funds?
well, it's only to fix the damage. It's not to do anything new and add. So
Yeah.
I would think it would be comply with it. He's not adding new pieces. It's just to fix it.
I'm fine with it. This is, as you said earlier, contingency funds used to be sort of spent without any discussion at all with us. So I'm glad to hear that it's being brought up with us. And if you think we ought to vote on it, I would be happy to make a motion.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good just for me so I can have confidence I'm saying the right thing.
So I move that we authorize the expenditure of the remaining funds in the account for the Police and Fire Memorial Project to repair damage that was incurred during its recent move.
Second,
Great, there's a motion and seconded. Any discussion?
Should we reference how much in fund, like not to exceed $1,500, for instance, if that looks like what Neil's asking for?
change that.
I think he's worried about the change in what prices things have gone up and everything. So, I mean, there's only $3,000 left in the account.
He asked for, today he asked for, with some documentation, right before the meeting that up to $3,000, but they won't spend it all if they don't have to. It's sort of a custom job and I mean,
So we've got Jason Malinowski with his hand up asking to speak too. If you'd like to bring him in.
Sure. Yeah, let's bring him in. Hello, Jason.
Hey, Andrew, how are you?
Good, you?
Good, thanks. As you all know, I was the chair of the building committee, and I'm shocked to see you even contemplating this because this was covered by our contract. So if there's an issue, it should be covered by the town's insurance, or it should be covered by our contractors that had insurance on the project. And to be debating something that was moved 2 years ago, I think you guys are spending money that you shouldn't be spending because no one's ever made us aware of it. And I would have thought that this would have come through the chief or the town administrator if there was an issue, and there's been numerous walkthroughs. So I would caution you to not expend this money at this point until you can get an answer on why this wouldn't be covered by the millions of dollars we paid as a town to fund this project.
So that was covered by, that you guys moved that when you moved the
That was
fire?
part of the contract bids. They had to submit paperwork and actually move it. It was part of the overall package.
I appreciate that enlightenment. So I will definitely push back on Neil and ask him why that hasn't gone that way. So thank you. Appreciate that. I guess we don't need that motion. You want to retract that, Ben?
I will withdraw the motion.
Great.
I think it would be okay to ask him to come in, and because he was saying something that it wasn't really from the move. So whatever it is, you guys want more information, and he can come in and be on the agenda to discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, if the damage existed prior to the move, then obviously I'll defer to all of you. The damage is due to the move, then I stand by my comment.
Okay, I agree. So we'll ask Neil to come in and explain how it got damaged and when.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. Any other questions on that one?
Nope.
All right. So the next piece, chairman updates overview for process for town meeting. I think, you know, we talked about town meeting. I don't know. I forget if we scheduled a meeting right before town meeting. I don't think we need it, knowing that it's gonna be outside and there's not gonna be any space. I think we're all aligned from the pre-walkthrough, what's gonna happen. I'm gonna present the articles all except for the clock tower. Ben will take that, the moderator knows. And the only other thing I gotta follow up is with Michael to see if he wants to say a few words at the podium. So I think we're good on that one, unless anyone has questions.
I have a question.
Yep.
You're going to be there anyhow. I don't think it hurts to have a meeting scheduled during or maybe you don't need it at town meeting. Is it the pre one? Can we say something comes up and you had to deliberate? Can you get together and deliberate if you're at town meeting? Or do you have to post a meeting?
You have to post a meeting, but we also have time if something comes up to be able to post it if we need to.
My point wasn't if something comes up that you know about ahead of time, but if something comes up that you weren't expecting, that you could then do it and not.
So we cannot deliberate during town meeting. We'd have to do it ahead of it, like that morning.
And we did schedule a meeting 2 days before on the 20th.
Yeah, that Thursday night we have it scheduled.
Yeah. So I think let's keep the Thursday night, but then in the past, we always used to meet like the day of town meeting.
Like an hour before or half an hour before.
Right. And I don't think with like being outside and trying to get a room and is feasible. So we'll keep the Thursday night and go from there if everyone's agreeable to that, which looks like they are. All right. So the next one is the golf course, the putting green update. I haven't heard from Dick Cruciani lately. I call him to see what the next phase is. I think I told everyone there was 2 locations that we were talking about. One was we were going to have to see if we could get the use of someone's land, and I think the abutter has actually just recently sold the house that they were talking about using that land. I said, no, let's keep it all on, town property. We don't want to open up like the envelope for the CR and say, now we have to do something else. It's like, you're talking years it's going to take to do that. So I'll follow up with Dick on that one. And other than that, that's all I had on the agenda. Anything else?
I actually have a question, and I don't know why I didn't think about this, and maybe I'm just not remembering. Do we have a preservation restriction on the bell tower if that passes at town meeting?
One
If we're
already
giving them-
exists. One already exists. When he mentioned they got an emergency grant in 2019 from Mass Historical, and one of the requirements of that was that they get a preservation restriction on the bell tower. And we had that reviewed by Aldo to see if it would meet our requirements for a preservation restriction, and he said that it does.
Okay.
So it's in
And-
place.
Okay, and
There's
then
already-
the other question I had, Ben, was, you're looking at, that's deteriorated a lot. Is there a question of whether maintenance has been done on that? I mean, that came up with the townhouse, how it was a question of maintenance not being done, and that it caused deterioration. Is that not the case here?
I think it was acknowledged by the church in their presentation that certainly, I guess partially the case over the many years that the bell tower has been in existence. And I would not be surprised if the issue is raised in town meeting. I think it's a combination of some deferred maintenance and also just being very old.
Okay, I'm old and I might not remember. I just wanted to, like, all of a sudden I was like, do we have a restriction on that building? Because that's a lot of money. So that's okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Are you
Do others
ready?
remember-
Are you
do others
ready?
remember-
I remember, but Dorian, are you ready for a preservation restoration project?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm just trying to put some
Yeah,
levity. Yeah, sorry. So
No, it's
Andrew,
okay.
what did I remember? 'Cause
I was just asking if others remembered the church's presentation the same way. I think they acknowledged there was some deferred maintenance that contributed. I don't want to put words in their mouth. I want to make sure I got that right. I think they did. I'm not sure if others recollected the same way.
So can I speak as a member of someone who attended those meetings but didn't speak? So
Yes, please.
my recollection was that there was maintenance done to them, but the mortar was not the same, and it was bad mortar that absorbed the water and went in.
Okay.
And that is what caused a lot of the problems. So they were doing maintenance, but it wasn't done and was the same type of mortar, and it made the problem worse.
Who did the mortar work?
I don't know. I don't remember
That
that.
would be the person who would be responsible, correct? Bad mortar?
I mean,
100 years ago or whatever. I don't think there's
or
some.
yeah, like
Well, I
look,
think we should call them up if it was only 100 years ago.
it's like every
No, it's
school
Andrew,
we
it's fine.
build. Like every school we build, the
Yeah.
contractor goes out of business as soon as the school's done, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I just didn't remember, and I just wanted to clarify that. So thank you for clarifying my questions. Thank you. I
And
appreciate it.
along those lines, this preservation restriction, is it the same situation as the townhouse where because the preservation restrictions in place, there'll be a monitoring function every year so that deferred maintenance shouldn't be as much as an issue as it is with the town buildings?
Can I jump in there?
Please do.
This PR is held by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Historical Commission. It's one of the best ones to hold a PR, but it's not somebody who's going to do, it's like going to the community. They're very good, but the PR we were talking about with the monitoring is like the concierge of PRs, but there aren't many companies that hold them. I shouldn't say companies, organizations that do. So the answer is likely no,
Okay.
but they're still required to maintain the building because they have the PR. If that makes sense.
That does make sense. Thank you.
So why are we spending money on PR if there's nobody to monitor it? Because that's why it's so expensive versus just deeding it and putting the restrictions on a deed.
We're not
We're not
paying.
spending money on it. The PR is already in place, and it was it was a requirement of Mass Historical Commission. So we're not
Right.
paying for a PR. We would only be funding, we'd be funding the restoration work, and knowing that our funding of it is protected by the PR that's already in place.
But we are doing a PR on the townhouse, correct?
Because there isn't one already in effect.
So
You know,
what,
that-
right, but what, and I understand that, so a PR, somebody monitors it. But if we don't have a lot of groups that actually do the monitoring, why are we going through the expense of putting a PR on the townhouse versus deeding the restrictions and what we want accomplished through a deed if someone's not really going to be monitoring it and spending that kind of money? Because a deed will protect the building and everything will have to be followed through. Perpetuity, it's not. It's protected that way through a deed. I don't understand the difference of a PR versus deeding it and putting
The-
those
The
restrictions.
PR that we're discussing on the townhouse the cost of that is for an endowment that would be given to an organization that will be, just like
Okay.
with the library, this organization will be doing yearly inspections to make
Okay.
sure that the PR is complied with. It's different than the one that's on the bell tower. That one's held by the state. This will be a private organization devoted to protecting historical works.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Thanks for the clarification.
But I also say that the state, when they hold them, if you can get them to, they're very good. They're not going to come in and do the looking to see, like the one we talked with Andrew that looks and says, oh, if you do this upkeep, you know, it won't deteriorate. That is an extra that was, not all PR holders will do that, but it's great value. But the state will, what you want is an organization that will, it's called defending the restriction, right? So if somebody came in and they started taking the tower off, the state would definitely come in and take them to court. The state has the resources to take them to court. That's one of the things you pay a nonprofit organization, because they have to, in perpetuity, be defending that with, you know, with lawyers that they might have to go to court in the future. So the state will, it's a little bit different. They're not going to come in and look at it and say, oh, you need to keep it up better. But if it starts to break the PR, then they will come in and legally, they would sue St. Mark's and make them fix it. So.
Great. So with that, there's only one bullet left on the agenda.
Can I just give you one really quick update, Andrew?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, from recreation for the basketball court over at Fayetteville. So the company will be out there within the next 2 weeks to take a look at it and start figuring out how to fix it. So we should be hearing some updates on that soon. All right.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Awesome.
As you brought that up, did you all get an email, I hope I sent, that we had voted to withhold some of the funding on that, but it was moot because we already paid the full amount
Yeah.
before the vote?
Okay.
So there is no funding on that we had withheld.
Sounds good. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll let Betsy
Thank you,
figure
Mark.
out who got in there first. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, I'm gonna go around the horn as I see you on my screen. Jennifer,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Dorian,
Yes.
and Ann.
Yes.
And Andrew is a yes. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Good night,
Appreciate it.
everybody.
Nice night.
Take care.
Thanks for all your hard work.